Let's talk about foreclosures and short sales. You've probably been hearing lots of buzz of it with the recent boom and bust of the big recession that we had. And especially with HGTV and all of this, a lot of people are talking about, so what's a foreclosure? What's a short sale? What's the difference? And what's right for you? That's today's frequently asked question. In order to answer this question, let's talk about what the foreclosure process looks like. Now, foreclosure basically means a borrower has become late on their payments, and so the bank is going to take that home back from them. That's effectively what a mortgage does, is give them the right to take the home back if you can't make your payments. So a borrower has been going along, making their payments like normal. Maybe they have a hardship or lose a job, something. They no longer make their payments. Eventually, the bank is going to start the process through different notices of filing for foreclosure. Eventually, there will be a sheriff's sale where the county sheriff has to give notice that there's a foreclosure impending, and they will sell that home to the highest bidder. In the vast majority of cases, for a lot of different reasons, that typically sells back to the bank, and effectively the bank buys it for what they're already into it for. So that will then become the bank's possession. However, prior to that point, the borrower had the chance to get current on their payments. They weren't able to do that, so then it went through sheriff's sale. After that time period in Minnesota, it's different in every state, but in Minnesota, they have another redemption period, basically where they can repay every part of it. It's typically about 6 months, but it can vary, where the buyer can pay back all of the principal, all of the interest, all the penalties and fees, everything. And if they can do that, then they can get the home back through different means. This is the period basically where the bank can't really resell it, and the borrower typically doesn't have the means to cure that default. And so this is the period that we're going through the foreclosure process. Once that period ends, then the home is fully foreclosed on. It becomes the possession of the banks typically, and that, after that time period is when the bank can choose to resell it. Typically, it takes a few months or so for the bank to relist the home on the market, and that's when any old buyer can come in and purchase the home as a foreclosure. So that's what a foreclosure is, basically, that the bank has purchased the home back, they've taken it through the process, and it's a bank-owned property that the buyer is choosing to purchase. So what's a short sale? A short sale is basically where, before this all happens, the borrower knows that they're going to get foreclosed on, they've got an issue that they can't make their payments typically, or they simply need to sell but they're underwater on their mortgage, meaning the amount that they owe exceeds the amount that they can sell their home for with all of their fees and things, the settlement out of that. So they have to sell it short of the balance that they owed, thus a short sale. So with a short sale, you're typically getting it at about market rate, which is what the bank would require. However, the process looks considerably different than a typical sale. So a typical sale, you find a home, you get it under contract, and right now about 30 to 45 days later, the home is yours. The only one that has to approve it is the owner, basically. The owner decides they want to sell it, and it's a done deal. With a short sale, you have to also get approval from the bank or multiple banks that hold the mortgage to that property. So you'll get it approved with the sellers and then do your inspection. Everything looks good. They will then send the package to the mortgage company or companies if there's multiples. Then those banks have to sign off to allow the home to be sold for less, dictating the terms with that homeowner. So that's the hiccup that can cause a lot of trouble for people, is that can put an extra 2, 3, 4 months maybe of time that you're just literally sitting there waiting. You've gotten it accepted with the sellers, but now it's sitting at the bank on their stack of short sales, and by the time they get to it, it can be a few months down the road. We don't know even at that point if it's going to get approved or not. That's the thing. You could wait 2, 3, 4 months down the road, and then the bank won't approve it at the price that you had outlined. So they might then counter you at more than you wanted to pay, or for different terms, or just not approve the short sale whatsoever. So you're kind of stuck in that contract for a certain period of time, maybe 90 days, maybe 120 days, something like that. It can be less, but it's usually quite a while, and you don't have any kind of guarantee that the bank's actually going to let you purchase the home. So that can be the trouble. So With foreclosure, again, it's like a regular sale effectively. Once it's gone through the foreclosure process, it's finished, and then you're just buying it straight as a foreclosure, then it's 30 to 45 days like normal. With a short sale, you do usually have a seller to negotiate with, but they generally have limited ability. They can't make repairs because they don't have the money to, or something like that. They're not walking away with cash, and so they don't have a lot to offer you in that sense. Can be a little bit difficult. On the flip side, with the banks, they won't fix anything. You're getting it in as-is condition almost every time. And so a home that has gone through foreclosure, typically the homeowner didn't have the ability to maintain the thing very well, and then it sat vacant for an extended period of time while the bank owned it, and they don't do much to maintain them at all anyways. So then the home that you're getting typically is in a lot less, nice shape compared to an average owner-occupied sale. So if you're looking at buying a foreclosure, you just need to be ready and willing to pay for the repairs that need to be done in order to make that home livable for you. If you're buying a short sale, you'll still have some of those repairs, but the condition's usually not as bad. But that's going to take you a much longer time. So who would I recommend for a short sale? Well, let's start with who I wouldn't recommend, I guess. If you've got any kind of a hard deadline, you've got a lease coming due, you've got parents that are kicking you out of their basement or whatever it is, you really need to move. Maybe you've got a home that you're selling and looking to buy another one, trying to do a contingent sort of thing. It just doesn't work very well in those situations. What it might work well for, if you're buying an investment property and you're not in a big hurry, it's not going to be your primary residence anyhow, and if the home really works well, maybe there's some easy sweat equity that you can put into it, relative to what else you're finding, that might be a great scenario, because it's not your primary residence and you're just wanting it for an investment property that's got the right numbers for you. So those would be good for a short sale. As far as a foreclosure, typically if you can only go FHA financing, that makes it pretty tough to get a foreclosure because the condition's usually not very good. You might be able to do a rehab loan, but generally conventional or cash is going to be a lot better route to go. So speak with your lender, come in, let's do a buyer's consult for you so that way you can see if that's right for you. But you also need to have the cash to be able to renovate that home to make it the living condition that you would expect. So there's a lot of pros, there's a lot of cons. If you'd like more information about these, come on in. Let's schedule your buyer's consult. It doesn't cost you anything. I've got a video explaining what buyer's consults are, as well as about 20 other topics on my website. Just visit jcarmack.com. We'll talk very soon. Thanks so much.